The Bob Murphy Show, episode 439.
There's a tidal wave coming. What you gonna do?
Get ready for another episode of The Bob Murphy Show, the podcast promoting free markets, free minds, and grateful souls. It's your source for commentary and interviews, conducted by a Christian and economist. Now here's your host, Bob Murphy.
Ho, ho, ho. You folks are in for an unusual treat this episode. Adam and I are launching a new mini-series, by which I mean this won't now be the topic of every crossover, but we will return to this theme, where we just give each other assignments, reading assignments or viewing assignments, and then we come back and comment on them. Sort of like how if one of us sees an interesting interview or something like that on YouTube, we might say, hey, for the next crossover, let's both watch this and take notes, and then we'll discuss, right? So that's what we're doing. We're just broadening the category of things that we might assign to each other for possible fodder. That's what we're doing here. And the first choice is a analysis of the graphic novel The Dark Knight Returns, featuring Batman. So I think I've given enough preface. Let me just say, I mean, for sure, if you've read that and liked it, you're going to like what we do here, just analyzing it, and you'll probably see some themes and whatnot that maybe escaped your notice. Even if you didn't watch it, I mean, I'm sure you've seen some Batman movies, or you used to watch the show or the cartoon when you were a kid, and so we tie it all together. So at least give this thing a shot and see if you like the kind of stuff we're discussing.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Adam.
So, what's on your mind, buddy?
I was just thinking it'd be kind of weird if you're like a little kid and you come out of some production and some random criminal just guns down both your parents in front of your face. What do you think they would do to a kid?
I mean, especially if like you were really amped up because you were watching Zorro and you were still psyched, and then your parents get murdered in front of you and you just feel like there's a sense of no justice whatsoever. But then you grow up and you've got access to billions.
Yep. We're talking, folks, about Eugen von Bombavik, and we've inflation adjusted because he was a von, so he came from, I don't know. What are we talking about, Adam?
You and I, Bob, are going to do something a little bit different. This is a part of a new series for us, kind of a book club review. And you gave me the honor of suggesting the first thing that we're going to analyze with our erudite brains. And so what did I choose? Being the adult, this responsible individual who's into economics and philosophy, I said, let's analyze The Dark Knight Returns, a comic book from 1986, written and drawn by Frank Miller.
And I want to explain to people, just to give you folks a little bit more context here, because I know some of you are bewildered. It's a kaleidoscope being thrust upon you at the moment. That partly why we did it is because this scratches many itches, right? That Adam and I want to be able to give you folks content that it's not just the same, let's go react to what this guy said over here on the same 8 podcasts or something. So this is clearly going to be something new. Also, what really made me like Adam as an analyst of fiction is he did some stuff on his other podcast with that other guy that he cheats on me with, Tyrone. And they were reviewing various, like the hero's journey movies and things like that, and how they don't think they hit the mark lately. And I thought that was great. That Adam, I realized, like, oh yes, I'd like his judgment, not just when it comes to central bankers and things like that, but also when it comes to fiction. So I thought this will be a good route for us to go. And the number one reason, like Dave Letterman used to say, as to why we're doing this is I literally sent a text yesterday to Adam saying, I need to go watch some episodes of the Super Friends. It's for work. And so if you're wondering why are they doing that, this is why.
Well, since you fluffed me up so nicely there, Bob, I'll say that I was inspired to suggest this because I liked very much your review of the latest Super Duper Man movie that you did on your own show. So, yeah, this came out in 1986, and DC Comics was struggling. We're going to show an example, but the history of the Batman character in all these stories was just so childish and goofy and campy. Like the Batman will be fighting the Joker, and he's got these giant typewriter and huge mallets and teddy bears and Jack in the Boxes, and the storylines are just so campy.
But can I stop you though, Adam? So I just want to be clear. You're saying, because just full disclosure, folks, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, some of you will think one and some of the other. I was not a big comic book person. So like I would watch the movie, like I watched the Superman, I watched the old Batman, like the Adam West stuff and then the cartoons and everything. But I didn't actually have a lot of, I think I maybe had literally like 4 comic books ever as a child growing up. So are you saying even in the comics before
I'm
this
saying,
thing, it was very, no pun intended, comical?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I was a comic book collecting kid, but I was always into Marvel comics because the DC ones were just terrible, and this is kind of why they were real childish, 2-dimensional characters, kind of, and like clearly written for kids. And you might say, okay, maybe they should be written for kids, but there just seemed to be this huge disconnect between, like, the audience clearly wanted darker, more 3-dimensional themes, and Marvel, to their credit, figured that out earlier than DC did.
You know what's interesting, and trust us, folks, we are going to get into the Batman one. But as you're saying that, I noticed that as a kid, the cartoons were different. That in the like the old Super Friends ones, and we're going to show a clip from one of those folks. Where there was meanwhile in the Hall of Justice, and they would have those them there, and there it was like they were the good guys, and the governments in the world were like on their side. Everybody loved the superheroes, and save us from Lex Luthor or whatever. Whereas I noticed again, even as a kid in the X-Men, like I watched X-Men, and in there, like the government would pass laws against mutants and stuff.
Yeah.
And Xavier, like Magneto would be courting the mutants even that were like sympathetic to Xavier by pointing out, like, look how much the regular humans hate you. Like, join me and we'll strike back against these people who have legitimately been oppressing you your whole life. And I was like, whoa, that's different. You know what I mean? Like that. Anyway, so yes, there was a certain level of maturity and realism or something, darkness in the Marvel that was not in the old school comic books treatment of like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman.
You're blowing my mind, Bob. I always rooted for the Legion of Doom when I was a kid. I didn't realize that they're supposed to be the bad guys. Yeah, Marvel definitely got creating more gritty 3-dimensional characters and situations. In fact, Frank Miller took another down on his luck, sort of goofy superhero, Daredevil, in the late 70s and early 80s, and totally turned that franchise around. Marvel was about to pull the plug on that one too, and he was writing and drawing such good comics, they were flying off the shelves. In fact, you've seen probably several terrible Daredevil movies that have been put out. All of them are trying in various ways to tell the stories that Frank Miller told in that famous run. They didn't do a very good job, but Frank Miller really did revolutionize things. In fact, this comic we're going to talk about, The Dark Knight Returns, you've seen elements of his Batman in 5 or 6 Batman movies too. They keep trying. I mean, it's so iconic. They can't help but crib from this piece of work.
Well, and that's so. I think maybe this is the first point that we kind of want to stress here. And is this not the lead into the clips that I sent you?
Sure.
Is that where we are here in our chronology?
Oh, one other thing I want to add. There must have been something in the zeitgeist, because this came out in 1986 again. It really was revolutionary. But another comic book came out by Alan Moore, who did V for Vendetta and wrote comic books that influenced a bunch of other movies. But he did a thing called The Watchmen, which is also made into a movie. And that also really revolutionized the industry by making much, much, much more adult themes told in interesting ways. So clearly something was trying to shift in the comic book industry around that time. And these two works really did make that happen.
And the other perhaps innovative thing they did is they each involved powerful characters interacting with the president of the United States, who was a Republican.
Yeah, what's that all about? Nixon and Reagan. Yeah, so you came with some clips.
Yeah, so let me just explain for the folks part of the context here and why I selected these two and the points I'm trying to make. That when Adam told me, folks, that this, the Dark Knight Returns was in his mind like the transition from the Batman's comic books being kind of campy and silly and whatnot, and certainly not mature and gritty, but it's like, hey, he's the Dark Knight, like something, and that the origin story is horrific, right? Like that,
Horrific.
we were kind of joking around about it, but I mean, yeah, Batman is a messed up, thing. And I said to Adam, oh, that's interesting, because I noticed that, like, with the, is it the Warner Brothers, like the Cartoon Network, I think, that the later cartoons that you'll see, if you're so inclined, where it's not just that Batman is grittier. And I'm talking about the stuff, folks, that's like on TV, like the kids could watch. It's not just that it's more mature and whatnot, but also it's clear in the writing that the writers just think Batman is the coolest guy ever. Whereas I was like, I don't remember that being the case in the old Super Friends that I watched as a kid. Like, Batman was cool, but it wasn't like every episode went out of its way to let you know that, no, there's a sense in which Batman's cooler than Superman. He's like so cool. And like, if you could just be anybody, you'd want to be Batman, right? I just never know that. Like, it just, that screams out at you from these more modern cartoons where they, just to give one example, we didn't grab the clips, but just to give one example, Adam, there's one where they, the heroes, I forget what I think it's called Justice League. They get, some bad guy who's not talking, and Batman's not around. He's off doing something. And Superman's like got him in the interrogation room in the Hall of Justice or whatever they call it in that show. And Superman's threatening him, but he's doing it like, in a real non-threatening way because it's Superman. And the guy goes, "What are you going to do? Give me a super wedgie, you big Boy Scout?" And then Superman's like, "How does Batman do it?" Right? And then in a different one, it was a good interaction showing everybody's powers that, they grab some guy and he's mouthing off or whatever. And there's like, "Who hired you?" Superman's got the guy by the arms or something. And he's like, "I'm not telling you." And then Wonder Woman says, "Well, you better." And then he looks at her and he's like, "What's in it for me?" Right? So it's like lascivious right there. So that's kind of funny. And then Batman, of course, partly because the guy's hitting on Wonder Woman, he gets jealous. He comes over and he's like, "Let me handle this." And of course, Superman just lets go because after all, it's Batman. He takes orders from Batman in this show. And Batman walks the guy over and says, like, you can just hear him whispering. And the guy's like, oh, Lex Luthor hired me and he gave me this and he's his hideout is blah, blah, blah. And then Wonder Woman says to Superman, "What did he say?" And Superman just goes, "You don't want to know." Right. So that's it, because Superman's got super hearing, so he could hear. So anyway, it was a very clever scene, but I'm just showing again, whenever something can't get done, Batman just shows up and solves it in these newer ones. Whereas, as we'll show in these clips, that is not the case.
That's hilarious. Not having kids, I haven't watched any of these things you're talking about, but that's clearly ripples.
Oh yeah, it's because my kids are watching them. That's why.
That's clearly ripples from this thing that's 40 years old, but they will refer to Superman as that big blue schoolboy or Boy Scout or something. And he's taking orders from the president and just being a goody two-shoes. And, there's a reason for it. You could steel man the argument. But anyway, it all comes from that. And one other thing I want to say, it's not like Frank Miller was the first person trying to tell grittier stories featuring Batman during this time. It's just that they just didn't land. They weren't memorable. They didn't move the needle the way this one did.
Okay, so these two clips, why don't we just go ahead and play them back to back, and then I'll just give the commentary on both of them. But just to set up, partly what I want you folks to realize is I'm going to explain how some of the newer gritty stuff I think actually misses some of the older facets of Batman's character, and so that there's good and bad involved here.
This is unbelievable, Superman. Firestorm is on the cover of every major magazine.
He sure would make a powerful super friend.
The problem is we don't know anything about him.
Well, I've discovered one strange fact about our mysterious hero. According to a spectral genetic analysis of this photograph, Firestorm's genetic code is composed of quadruple DNA helices. It means that Firestorm appears to be two people in one.
Holy split personalities!
Meanwhile, a much bigger surprise awaits the Super Friends miles away at Mount Jupiter, a sleeping volcano.
Okay, so there, what I'm getting at is, in the old ones, it's true. I watched several of them, and when I got to an episode, Adam, where they had Batman and Superman just casually go faster than the speed of light, and that took them into a different universe where they were turned into like a chicken and some other animal by these aliens. There was a super frog. I realized I need to go to bed. Like I've watched enough. But anyway, and so my hunch, my recollection from childhood was confirmed that Batman was not the star of those older ones. Like it was Superman and the Green Lantern if he was in them, or like some Apache guy, like some guy that had like a sandstorm kind of weird. I don't even know who the heck the guy is now, but anyway, it made sense. Like it was basically proportional to their powers, right? Like there were plenty of times when it was, oh, there must be some kryptonite alloy in these bars, because whenever they got captured, Superman, has to be taken out of the game. Otherwise, every episode just Superman does everything, right? So, and then, Batman occasionally. But what they did have back then that I think is somewhat lost, like in the Christian Bale, like, oh, Batman's such a badass guy, is that Batman was super smart.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what they did right there. I grabbed that example where if they, in terms of exposition, if they had to let the kids know, like, what's going on, who's going to explain with the big fancy words, it was typically Batman. He was the one working the computers and explaining it to everybody else. And then Superman would, well, we better go quickly then, Also, just as an aside, people may have caught, that was Adam West's voice.
Yes.
It was funny because I didn't remember him doing it, and I looked it up, and he was not the original one. He only came in later. Like, so in the earlier seasons, it was some other guy that had a very, nice, like, soothing voice, not like, oh wow, this guy sounds like he's malevolent and you got to watch out for him. It's a very adult, like your sixth grade teacher voice kind of guy. So anyway, so that's what I wanted to get there, and then finally I included the little bit of the clip to show it was Ted Knight, the guy from Caddyshack, folks, that he was the meanwhile in the Hall of Justice. He did that at least for several seasons as well, and you heard him there.
Well, speaking of Adam West and the terrible state of the Batman franchise, here we go.
Metronome, what a fate! Punched in the player piano rolls.
True, Robin. Scarcely an end I'd ever anticipate. Life, a cup full of surprises to the last drop.
See any way out, Batman?
Frankly, from this perspective, no. Wait a minute.
A minute's too long. My toes are almost in the puncher.
Robin, with every ounce of breath that's left in you, sing along with me.
Sing what?
Don't ask questions, Robin. Sing each note precisely as I do. When I sing, you sing. Ready, Robin? Sing.
Will that terrible sound never stop?
Death squeals of a brace of bats.
Nice singing, Robin. It saved our lives.
Holy Caruso, how?
Observe how this machine works. Music from the master piano is picked up by this microphone and transmitted to the perforating cylinders, which reproduce the chords perfectly. We outshouted the piano, don't you see?
Sure, but how come we didn't get punched full of holes?
Because of the notes I selected. They were calculated to make the punches fall precisely around the outlines of our bodies. I visualize the chords in my mind.
Holy perfect pitch!
Yes, it's useful sometimes. However, no time for self-congratulation. Let's burst in and bag those birds.
Well, you said, Bob, that you wanted them to portray Batman as being real intelligent, so there you go.
It's funny. I think you were thinking my point in showcasing that one was to heap ridicule. To me, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was an awesome episode. It had Liberace in it. It also showed, again, the sex appeal. Like they realized, oh yeah, there's like young boys watching this show, and you can see that, Liberace, his plan for some reason involved scantily clad women, just like, the old Star Trek often had things of that nature as well. So anyway, and in fact, I was kind of scandalized watching the old cartoons that in one of them, like the running theme was Darkseid was trying to marry Wonder Woman, and the card, the old Super Friends card. And it was like, I think at that time I was so young, I didn't really even get what was going on. But, by the time I saw the Batman one, I did. So anyway, but my point is that, yeah, very campy and everything, of course. But again, my point is there, you can see what they're emphasizing is that, yeah, like, oh, how does he get out of it? It's not because he's so strong or whatever. It's because, oh, wow, this guy is just a genius. Like he just, oh, yes, I can picture it in my mind and then whistle on the fly. And, and every episode they would be caught in some, cliffhanger death trap. And then typically it was Batman would use his wits to get them out of it. And I'm just saying that element, you don't see it as much in the, in the more modern movies where he's like this amazing tough guy and he has cool gadgets and things. So anyway, I'm just explaining that I think that's if they could somehow make him super tough and gritty and bring forth that genius, I think they would really hit it.
He is supposed to be the world's greatest detective after all, right?
Yeah, yep.
So, all right. I assigned you this book and you read it. What do you think? Well, should we like say the plot or something? How do you do these sorts of things?
I think first we should give a word from our sponsor.
Oh, that's right. We have a delightful sponsor. Let her rip, Bob.
Yep. So, folks, if you have any kind of event that you have coming up and you would like whether it's your fellow employees, your coworkers, or if you have like a church event, some kind of festival, but anything where it would make sense, it would just really enhance things if you had swag, would be people like, your logo or something to commemorate the event. You're all going on a ski trip or something, anything like that where you want t-shirts, sweatshirts, ball caps, mugs with some kind of image or words on it, then you want to go to the Swan Brothers. That they are the sponsors of these crossover episodes. Adam knows one of them personally. We trust these guys. They've been in this sector for 16 years, I believe. So they do high quality merchandise. They'll take care of you. Just go to theswanbrothers.com/cross and just give them your information and they'll work with you and see if it makes sense for your event.
Absolutely, Bob. And just to underscore that, I have here in my hand a study conducted by the Institute of Science-y Truth in Business. And it says right here, scientific-like, that managers of businesses, schools, churches, or groups who do not use the Swan Brothers may actually be guilty or negligent of duty fiduciary to their shareholders. It might be some kind of fraud or crime if you don't use the Swan Brothers in that way. So just be warned. I got a website here, www.scienceytruth.business, so you know it's on the up and up.
I believe 3 out of 4 dentists also recommend them. So.
That's right.
All right. Joking aside, folks, guilt tripping aside, go to theswanbrothers.com/cross to see all the information.
Get swag, make money. All right. So anyway, The Dark Knight Returns is a heck of a story. And one of the hugest themes in it is that this is an old Batman. The story starts, and he's been retired for 10 years, and Gotham City has just gotten worse and worse and worse. He's a very charismatic leader of a criminal gang, a bunch of kids, and they're just doing horrific things. And it becomes clear later that Batman was forced to quit because the government just shut down all the superheroes. And so he just went underground and gave it up. But he's got this demon inside him named Batman that's just trying to get out. And then after seeing just enough horrible incidents of crime in the news, he just freaks out and unretires and goes out and starts his campaign of crime fighting. And he ends up coming into contact with Two-Face and the Joker. Catwoman is in there. And it just tells a slow story of how a society that's kind of sick reacts to crime fighting in a way that's not just black and white and cartoonish. And he drives the story forward really interestingly, doing a bunch of TV segments that are kind of hilarious. He's got this clone of David Letterman, which is kind of amazing. Dr. Ruth Weisenheimer, I forget her last name, but Dr. Ruth. She's in there, Ted Koppel. And then in the midst of that huge thing, as if that's not big enough, the president of the United States sends Superman to go make Batman go back into hiding. And so that Zack Snyder film, Batman versus Superman, it wasn't great, but what he was trying to do was tell that part of this story, which is kind of iconic.
Okay, so do you know, is this comic the first one that actually showed Batman and Superman fighting?
I don't know. I'm not like a DC guy. I'm sure they had squabbles. But after this one, it became much more normal to think that, yeah, Batman could take on Superman, because all you have to do is figure out how to synthesize kryptonite and you kind of win, right?
Right. And but even beyond, what I liked about it was like just showing, as you say, how their personalities are so different, in a sense. Like, it would make sense that they were on the same team, but they were always squabbling. And like that came through even in something like what was it? There was a video game that was based off the Legos movie. You know how it had Batman and stuff in it. And in that one too, I can't remember how it worked exactly, but it was like at the end of one of the levels or something, like your Batman and Robin are falling, and then Superman comes and saves them, and Batman just like, you know what I mean? Like, he resents that the Superman had to, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, I would take that for granted now, but again, in the cartoons that I watched growing up, Batman didn't have a problem with Superman. They were all good guys. Why would they have a problem? You know what I mean? So anyway.
Yeah, well, that theme is explored deeply here, and Batman is furious with Superman for just giving in. You know, he doesn't think they ever should have quit, and he thinks Superman's a sellout for just taking orders from the president, who's clearly supposed to be Ronald Reagan, and he literally sends Superman out to do covert wars against proxy agents of the Soviet Union without, anybody seeing him, because he can move super fast and all that. And this is 1986, and it's just kind of an adult theme. If you did have super beings, you'd kind of figure out that the big political powers would try and corral them, right, and put them to work.
Yep. Yeah, and to be clear, like, it's not only that it was dark in terms of like Batman or whatever, but it also like just showing a side of the U.S. government that, of course, we nowadays would all, not just libertarians and anarcho-capitalists, but even Joe Schmo would recognize that, oh yeah, if our government had Superman following its orders, it wouldn't just say, oh my gosh, there's a dam in Brazil that broke. Quick, Superman, go help those people. Like, it would be, hey, there's some tanks we want you to go take out,
Yeah, from space with your laser vision. So that element is really interesting. A nuclear bomb goes off. They probably screw up the science around electromagnetic pulses, but it's all very entertaining.
It was nowhere as bad as, oh no, Superman, when we went faster than the speed of light, I realized it sent us in this alternate dimension, which is from the thing I was watching on Sunday.
Those old Super Friends cartoons were so bad.
Yeah.
In one, they had Superman move a planet. Like, that was part of the thing. There's something coming, and he had to move a planet. And I guess you can sort of make that okay in your head if you're viewing it from a light year away or something. But like, if you were just on the street and you saw a guy doing a handstand with a red cape sort of puddled
Right.
around his head.
What would it be like? Superman, quick, go down 3 stories below ground.
Yeah,
What would
right.
he do differently? Yeah.
What are you exactly pushing on, Soups?
No, be really careful. Like, you get your arm, spread your arms so you get the whole
real
earth.
wide.
Yeah, when you
real
yeah,
wide.
You don't want to like crack the eggshell.
So in The Dark Knight Returns, one of the themes I just think is really cool is that it's not like there's criminals out there and then Batman shows up and saves the day and there's no knock-on effects.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest elements here is that he literally does inspire some of the most outlandish, quote-unquote, supervillains to come out and do crazy things. And he inspires a bunch of vigilante action, too. That's it's pretty great when Batman does it, but when these amateurs do it, it's kind of horrific. And to the point where a psychiatrist in this story is like making excuses. There are no criminals, really. Everybody's just responding to the pathological intrusion into society that is this vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
And on one sense, that's kind of ridiculous, but on the other sense, there's like something to it. And I thought the interplay was great. They had a whole bunch of man on the street interviews. That it's just a cool idea, or at least I think it's a cool idea.
Oh yeah, it was definitely brilliant. And folks, that I told Adam this. Unfortunately, what happened is when I forget the exact interplay, but you told me to, I think, watch it, or that I should get the book. And then I said, oh, well, I saw this thing. It was really good. It was on TV, or YouTube. I saw it, and, it was clearly something. And it's like starts out and Batman's old. And he's like, yeah, that's this. And so, unfortunately, like I watched that whole thing. It's 2 parts. I think each one is like 1.5 hours. Does that sound right?
I think so, yeah.
So, okay. So, it's a long thing, and I just totally got sucked into it. And so, unfortunately, like the plot, I already kind of knew the basic story, and then just getting the graphic novel just added to the excitement or whatnot. But I told Adam halfway through it, I said, I can't even imagine if I were reading this and didn't know what was already going to happen. Like how amazing that would be. Like, 'cause you're right with the mutant armies that he sort of takes over and the way he, wins over their loyalty, which, maybe we don't want to give too many spoilers, but, that is very clever. But yeah, I also did like you say, he does a good job of showcasing various perspectives and commentary where it's not just that, oh yeah, everybody loves Batman because he's the good guy. There's
Right.
a lot of backbiting and just all these experts getting but yet they're not so implausible. Like you can see how everybody could earnestly be saying what they're saying. And that's what I like about for me, that's what I like about fiction. I think you and I have talked about this before, where the author is not like setting up someone to mock them or to say, oh, this is a dolt, or so, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I can't stand Charles Dickens. Like, it's crystal clear when you read his stuff. These are the characters you're supposed to like, and these are the ones you're supposed to not like, as opposed to just, hey, this is where everyone's coming from. And this is their perspective.
Right.
And yeah, you might not agree with some of them, and they're making choice. And you can tell the author has a value system, and, and typically like the good wins out in some sense in the end or whatever. But they don't handicap anyone. They let them do their deal and explain why this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's three-dimensional characters are obviously much better than two-dimensional ones, and that's what this Batman franchise desperately needed. Another thing that really stood out for me in this book was how they treated the character of Robin. The character's in there, but it's no one you've ever heard of before.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that. Like, I kept thinking they were going to explain it more, and they never really did. By the way, sorry, something you said earlier. You said Catwoman, isn't it? Was she the lady in charge of the brothel?
Yeah.
Or the escort service? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, is that her? Is that like, if I didn't know who's Bruce Wayne? Is that analogous? Like, did they say Catwoman's
Selena Kyle is Catwoman, yeah.
Oh, now that you say that, I guess I realized that, but I didn't. Okay. Well, because she was old. Like, I think a Catwoman was being hot. And was she like 55? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the Robin thing. Like, what do you want to know? The basic history, or? Well, Robin is out of the picture in this story. Like the original one grew up and became a character on his own, or maybe became a congressman or something. And the second Robin gets killed. by the Joker. And so there is no Robin that's alive, but this kid, 13-year-old girl, when she sees Batman come back, she just wants to be Robin. She looks into it. She's thrilled. She's looking for a hero. Her parents are terrible. And so she just recruits herself. And this old Bruce Wayne Batman, who's basically trying to find a way to find a good death that would be meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
With the introduction of this character, it gives him a reason to have a long-range vision of the future and instead try to build something rather than just find a way to die in the best possible way. It's really a heartwarming little relationship that they develop.
Okay. Yeah, I think I need to let it sit for a bit and reread it, because you're right. Like that opening race car sequence that I know we're going to cover, now that clicks, but I kind of didn't. I was kind of going through that fast. Like, okay, when do we get to the good stuff? Like, so yeah, now I see what you're talking about.
Yeah,
all
Bruce Wayne is just furious. He didn't want to quit. He's seeing his city just go even worse after quitting. In fact, when he comes back, he's really bestial. I mean, he's not the greatest detective. He comes back like an animal and starts putting the hurting on the criminal element. And it was the introduction of Robin that makes him become a person again and start planning for the future. It's really quite quaint. Yeah, what else did you want to talk about before we delve into the animated series you were talking about?
Yeah, well, so just some of the takeaways I had, besides things that we've already brought up, is it was like he really went out of his way to show like what a badass Batman is. And for example, there's two different parts. One part he says something like, "It's been a while since I fought cops," so that's kind of funny. And then there's another one when he has to get away from. It's like when he goes in the tunnel of love or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like, I might be getting. Sorry, I might be mixing things up. No, I don't think I am. That one, they come in and like the cops are all wearing like body armor, so they're SWAT or something. They're not just regular. And he says something like, "Oh, they have armor on, so I don't have to restrain
I won't have to
myself."
hold back.
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? And so, and still, he gets out of there without seriously injuring any of them. And so, like, it is true to Batman's code and everything, but it is just funny that it shows him thinking like that. That, like, yeah, I can't kill any of them, but oh, good, they got armor on, so now I can be a little bit more aggressive in how I deal with this situation. So anyway, I'm just saying, clearly in the Super Friends that I watched as a kid, it was not that the Batman would say, "Okay, Superman, stand by while I go fight some police officers." Like, what? Why would you do that? Are they in the pay of the Joker? What?
Yeah, you can tell he's definitely not in a let's just capture these crooks and turn them over to the justice system and everything will be great. He's trying to hurt these people.
And let's see, what else did I? So yeah, I love the like we say, the way he won over this group. That it will be a bit vague, I guess, not to completely spoil things. And there is the method by which he does that. I'll try to say enough that the people who've read it know what I'm talking about. But Adam, where it kind of goes through, he basically, I guess I'm not spoiling it, Batman loses a fight to one guy and then he goes back and wins. And that it does showcase it because he's just fighting smarter, sort of like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
realizing I can't beat this guy the regular way. I gotta do rope a dope or something. You know what I mean? Anyway, and the way they do that, it's very convincing. It's not just Batman thought about it and then fought smart. Like he went through specifically move by move and shows what he did to outthink this guy who Batman realizes through the the middle of the fight. This guy's stronger and faster than me. What am I gonna do?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And it's not that he pulls out his bad guy repellent and sprays him.
No, it's still a fist fight. Yeah, which brings up, just talk about one of the main differences. Like, in case you're thinking, these guys are talking about a pretty good story, but I'm not such a big reader and comic books are stupid anyway. So I'll just watch this 3-hour animated series, but it is a very faint echo, a pale reflection of the original. And one of the reasons is, one of the hugest themes of this book is the fact that Batman's 55. He retired at 45, but he's, he trained, as a much younger man to fight crime and do all the things he does. So what's so interesting is his internal monologue as he's doing all these things and trying to think his way through problems and what's going wrong because he's not young anymore. And in the animated series, they just strip out his inner dialogue altogether. They don't show it. Like somebody made an editorial decision that, no, we'll just put that in dialogue somewhere, but it's weak to have a voiceover or something, which is a shame because some of Frank Miller's best writing in this thing is the inner dialogue that Batman is having as he's trying to work his way through this. And then they replace that with, in the cartoon, he's just like running into hails of bullets, like straight on. I mean, it's goofy. It's like, how are these cops Cylons? How are they missing? And it makes the animated series just look kind of stupid. But the graphic novel is not that way at all. If he finds himself in a spot where he lets somebody, get a round off at him, it's because he's slower than he used to be, and he wasn't thinking enough. And it's just a much smarter story as told on the written page.
And so I guess one bit of advice or takeaway from this ad is that if there are viewers out there who are intrigued and we've convinced you, then by all means, you can watch the thing, but I would recommend get the graphic novel first. Because like I said, I was lamenting to Adam that, man, I wish I had this thing and didn't already know what the plot was, because that would be even more amazing than this. So what we're going to do now, is showcase some examples, Adam, because you told me that was your thought when I sent you because you didn't even know that they had made this 3-hour
I didn't know
2-part thing. And so I sent that to Adam saying, hey, this follows pretty closely as far as I could tell. And then he wrote back, oh, no. And so I said, well, get some good examples of where, the graphic novel has so much more that they, for these editorial reasons, didn't put into the animated thing. And so that's what we're going to go through now, right, is to show some key examples to highlight the difference.
Yeah, I had to restrain myself. I could have easily gotten several dozen examples like this. And I decided not to show any of the ones I was just talking about with Batman's inner dialogue while he's doing all these amazing things, because that's too much of a giveaway. But right off the bat, at the opening, you'll see that the cartoon version is kind of cartoony. And hopefully, Bob and I will do a decent job of reading the graphic novel to you, teleplay style, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll start off right at the beginning. The scenes that open up this animated thing, it's the exact same scene that opens up the graphic novel. It's Bruce Wayne in a race car because he's retired. He's not a superhero anymore, so he's got to get his kick somehow. So he's doing racing whatever it is, Formula One or something. And this is what it looks like on the cartoon.
Bruce, you're pushing the car too hard. It's not meant to take it.
I'll coax it.
That's it. I'm engaging computer override.
Don't think it's working.
You son of a bitch. Are you trying to kill yourself?
Spectacular finish to the Newman elimination. Looked like a flaming coffin for billionaire Bruce Wayne for sure. Turns out Wayne bailed out at the last second, suffering only minor burns.
He didn't win that race in the cartoon here, right? In fact,
Right.
he didn't even finish. He didn't make it to the finish line. That is not how Mr. Miller did it in the graphic novel. So, are you ready to do your part for your
I think
art?
so. Yes.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll put the images up on the screen right from the graphic novel. And for those of you who can't see it, Bob and we'll just play out the parts ourselves. You know the scene already. In the graphic novel, you don't really ever see the outside of the car, though. All that Speed Racer stuff is just not in there. You just get a close-up, basically, of Bruce Wayne's face, and then a couple close-ups of the car. Here's Bruce. I've got the home stretch all to myself when the readings stop making sense. I switch to manual.
Bruce, this is Carol. You're going too fast.
But the computer crosses its own circuits and refuses to let go. I coax it.
It isn't programmed to... Bruce! Bruce, you son of a...
And at this point, this is me, Adam, that's when he reaches in and strips out the wires of the thing. Back to Bruce. It shoves hot needles in my face and tries to make me blind. I'm in charge now, and I like it. Then the front end lurches, all wrong. I know what's coming. I've got just under 2 seconds to shut this mess down and forfeit the race. The engine, angry, argues the point with me. The finish line is close, it roars. Too close. The left front tire decides to turn all on its own. I laugh at it and jerk the steering wheel to the right. The nose digs up a chunk of macadam. I look at it, then straight into the eye of the sun. This would be a good death, but not good enough.
Spectacular finish to the Newman elimination as the Ferris 6000 pinwheeled across the finish line, a flaming coffin for Bruce Wayne, or so everyone thought. Turns out the millionaire bailed out at the last second, suffered only superficial burns. Lola? Thanks, Bill. I'm surprised anyone can even think of sports in this weather, right, Dave?
Thank you for your completeness, Bob. You're a true professional.
Yes.
So yeah, if you'll notice in the graphic novel, Batman is fighting with demons right there at the beginning. You know, the demon of the sports car and wanting to win, and he wins the damn thing, pinwheeling this flaming car across the finish line in first.
And it says, you know, something that you alluded to before that I didn't even remember until when you were bringing up like how does Robin change him? That he wants to die. It's just, I got to go out, you know, I'm Batman. I got to go out with a bang, and this is not a good enough way to die. So he clearly is like, maybe suicidally depressed is not the right terminology, but he does not want to continue living at this point. And so there's that, which you did not capture from that animated thing
Not
at
even
all.
close. And, you know, because we pretend to be talking economics a lot, he goes from maximum high time preference, you know, and he's just looking for a way out that's not pathetic, to building a future, you know, something positive, like turning the corner from like just being a crime fighter to, by the end, he's actually trying to build a community. You know, I wouldn't call it Ancapistan exactly, but it's a way different shift. And again, it's Robin that does that for him.
It's kind of like foreshadowing what Tom Woods did in his career.
I can't believe you and I were just brainwave. I had the exact same thought. All right. I have 3 of these examples. That was just the first. Before we move on, though, I mean, you see what I mean, Bob. Getting what Bruce Wayne is thinking is like where all the action is happening. That's where all the interesting things are happening. They're trying to just, I mean, look how much time they spend in that cartoon just showing him shift gears and look, this is a gas pedal.
Right.
And, this guy's passing.
And he's zooming. Yeah, right. Whereas, the other one, you didn't even know there were other cars, technically.
Yeah, because who cares? That's not what it's about.
Right.
It's about him wrestling with this machine and the limits of this X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, honestly, with the graphic novel, in the beginning, I thought he was just like doing a test run on some experimental new engine that they had designed for him. I didn't even realize he was in a race.
Yeah, it is. And I personally, I mean, they followed the basic plot like really, really well. They only cut out a few things, but all the good storytelling, I thought they were just missing the point, because it's not about a race, right?
Mm-hmm. And like you say, that was a decision. Like it wasn't. They could have just had, you could hear his thoughts. There's no reason they couldn't have done that.
Yeah, they made. I mean, you could almost hear the producer's thoughts. Like, we know mostly kids read this. I mean, they left in a lot of dark, bloody stuff, but they took out some adult themes that was the part that really made it really interesting. Just showing blood and gore for the sake of it isn't very good.
It's got to be tasteful blood and gore.
Exactly. All right. Batman has resumed his role. He took down a bunch of goons who were working for Two-Face, robbing a bank. He crippled all of them. One of the guys was trying to sue the department or get released because Batman just beat him up, and I didn't even do anything wrong. So Commissioner Gordon just lets the guy out, knowing that Batman is going to go interrogate him. It's kind of funny where the guy's like, oh, never mind, don't let me out. Anyway, so this is an interrogation scene, and I want to play it and then read from you the pages of the novel just to show the kinds of things that this cartoon stripped out and why you might miss them when they're gone.
Face? Anyone here?
Two-Face has already moved on. He was smart enough to know I'd track him. You weren't. So now you're going to tell me what he's up to.
Stay away from me! I got rights!
Sure, you've got rights. Plenty of them. You're also bleeding to death. And right now, I'm the only one in the world who can get you to a hospital in time. So how quickly you decide to talk is up to you.
So again, let's go to the graphic novel. Notice what gets left out. Oh, and notice that the Batman is just tall and dark and handsome there. He's just saying his threats and doing his thing, but he doesn't look happy, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like he's enjoying this. All right, let's read from the graphic novel. Batman slams the door, which we just saw, and here he is, Batman. If he is Harvey Dent, he's a menace to every life in Gotham.
Get away from me!
I know you're very concerned about that. You're going to tell me everything you know, sooner or later. If it's later, I won't mind.
No, stay back! I got rights!
Crashes through the window. You've got rights. Lots of rights. Sometimes I count them just to make myself feel crazy. But right now, you've got a piece of glass shoved into a major artery in your arm. Right now, you're bleeding to death. Right now, I'm the only one in the world who can get you to a hospital in time. Very close-up image of Batman's face, and he's clearly smiling. And so the bit that they left out, I mean, I think you'll agree, Bob, that's the cool part, right? I mean, this isn't a guy who's just trying to uphold law and order. And yeah, I know I'm technically a vigilante, but I'm basically one of you guys. I'm just a cop, I'm just an extra special cop, and we're working together. No, this guy's furious at how his version of Gotham is mollycoddling criminals, apparently, or that's how he's choosing to interpret it. The restrictions on law enforcement.
Are we going to do the man on the street, or are we just going to not do that part?
Oh, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. It's not exactly related. Yeah, Bob, let's do the man in the street. But since the panels are up there,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Bob.
So note, like in the cartoon version that we just saw too, it's he stresses that you can talk or whatever. But here they don't even have Batman spell that out. It just shows the guy in his
Yeah.
arm bleeding, thinking about it. It's like implied. And then it goes to the man on the street to see the reaction to this, because clearly they're showing like, whoa, this is a Batman we're not familiar with. And so the first guy says, Batman, yeah, I think he's A-okay. He's kicking just the right butts. Butts the cops ain't kicking, that's for sure. Hope it goes after the homos next. And the next guy, makes me sick. We must treat the socially misoriented with rehabilitative methods. We must patiently realign their... Excuse me? No, I'd never live in the city.
Yeah, man, this is what I'm talking about. If you don't think this writing is great, I don't understand you. Because the first guy, like, we're all rooting for him, right? He's the concerned citizen. And thank God someone's finally coming along to put these crooks in their place. And then by the end of it, he's like, I hope they go after the homos next. And you're like, well, wait a minute. And they show this exact scene word for word in the animated thing, except they change at the end. I hope he goes after my landlord next, instead of, because they don't want to say
so
homos.
they want to imply that his landlord's gay. That's
how I took it. Yeah. And then
they're basically saying all landlords are gay and retarded is really what they're getting at there.
You should have been a literary analyst. And then the other guy is like a typical lefty, it's all concerned for the criminal element in the city. Oh, I would never live in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who
Martha's
cares?
Vineyard kind
exactly.
of.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, we don't have the facilities to keep, take care of these illegal immigrants here. So why don't we?
And there's example after example after example of stuff like that. It just shows the sickness that is Gotham society. And there's some beautiful scenes where, like, even the people that are the good people, you could see that they're just beat down. Like, they don't really know what the point of being good is. And then when something terrible happens, they start to loot and riot, like, right away. Not even 5 minutes goes by when they're, at each other's throats. And, it goes to show that when a society kind of loses its way, you're just a finger snap away from total chaos. The norms of civility, or it can be paper thin in a spot like that. And again, in the graphic novel, unlike the cartoon, they show tons of examples of these Batman-inspired vigilante acts that are each little beautiful vignettes, all on their own.
Can I stop you? So I actually didn't understand. So I'm glad we were going through this because you're showing me stuff that I missed. When you're saying he's clearly smiling there, that didn't jump out at me when I first read it. Now I knew it did in the sense where he said, if it takes longer, I'm okay with that, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
So like, clearly they're letting you know Batman is not thinking like, this is going to hurt me more than you. No, it's going to hurt you. And that's okay with me. But the line about sometimes I count your rights so much it makes me crazy or whatever, is that saying because he's sitting around thinking, how are we in this position where criminals are running roughshod and the people who have the power to stop them are not allowed to? Like, what the heck kind of world is this? It's nuts. Is that what he's getting at?
He doesn't spell it out, but it's something along those lines, right? He definitely thinks that justice is not being served after. It's like, a lot of police officers must feel, when I round up the criminal and I put the cuffs on him and I drop him off, and next day I see him on the street again.
And
exactly, I sprinkle crack on the. But you said, he's enjoying his barbarism, and we're not going to show it, but there's one scene. Well, the first thing is when he first escapes the Bruce Wayne prison and is Batman again. He's out there like growling as he grabs these people and just manhandles them. He's like growling like an animal. He's not the world's smartest detective. he's an uncaged beast. And then in his first battle with Two-Face's goons, in fact, the guy that he is about to interrogate there, he's taking care of his three partners, and it's just this guy now. And so he's hiding in the shadows, waiting for this goofus to come, creep past him. And he says something like, there are 7 working defenses from this position. 3 of them disarm with minimal contact. 3 of them kill. 1 of them hurts. And then he does some badass kick and breaks the guy's femur, and you see him in the body cast in the scene we just played. The point being is, he's clearly not interested in disarming with minimal contact and
Yeah.
dropping these kids off at the police station.
He would not have voted for me when I debated Tom Woods on passing.
Yeah, we would have. That would have been in the wrong column for you, my friend. All right, let's play this last one just to show again this is a dark comic, the animated series, and it's pretty good. You know, if I hadn't ever read the graphic novel, I think, wow, this is a pretty good.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and then obviously they couldn't have him saying homo.
Of course,
but, you know what I mean, like that one. We're obviously kidding, folks. Like we get why that's not going to work.
Of course, but that's not my main criticism.
Right, I know. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that, like, we didn't come off as some people might be thinking, like, you guys don't get why they did, why they changed that one.
I do get it. I agree with that change.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all these other themes. Like you left in, point I'm making is you left in really bloody, awful, nightmare-inspiring themes. But then you took out, sorry, I'm finding the spot for the next clip. You took out some of the smartest writing and some of the smartest themes, and it's a crying shame. All right, this scene is the big gang that's taken over Gotham is called the Mutants, and Batman has just defeated finally the mutant leader by acknowledging that he's not a young man and fighting much more intelligently, as Bob was alluding to earlier. So this mutant leader is in jail, and the cowardly mayor of Gotham, for some reason, thinks it would be a good photo op. I don't know, a good idea to go in and negotiate with the leader of this gang to try and get him to, I assume, have his minions stand down or something. I don't know.
You sure you want to go through with this?
At
least you don't have to do it alone. I could be in there with you.
No. I have to resolve this. That's what the polls say.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
The mayor is dead.
Okay, so we got bloody, we got horrific, but like when I saw that, I'm like, I remember the scene. It just seemed a lot more interesting and smart and intense when I read it originally. So we'll put up the image from that page of the graphic novel. And I'm reading Jim Gordon now.
Yeah, I don't think I have any speaking roles in this one.
Maybe you can giggle and shriek or something. I don't know. All right. So again, this is the exact same scene. You can see the panels. There's nothing that outrageous if you're just listening. Jim Gordon. The cell door opens. The air goes thick. I feel the mayor shudder in time with me. I ask him one more time if he is sure he wants to go in alone. He gurgles and nods. I don't know if I'd call it courage. I hear a nervous giggle and an animal growl. I hear handcuff links snap. I see something I'll take to my grave. Now he's pulling his gun out and aiming at the guy. Some idiot stops me from doing the obvious thing. Now, I'm sorry, Bob. Maybe I'm just a child at heart, but that's a better scene.
Yeah. It is a better scene. It's interesting too, Gordon's reaction. Like he and Bruce Wayne / Batman are, a lot of the story is like they're constant catching up with each other and talking about old times and then the future and blah, blah, blah. And so there too, you kind of see why Gordon was able to work with Batman so well, that he didn't just say, my immediate reaction is, like he said, the obvious thing. Like to him, yeah, of course, obviously what ought to have been done. But then in defense of rules and procedures, had he done the obvious thing there, that wouldn't have allowed Batman to then win the allegiance of the mutant army. So sometimes rules are in place for a reason. You don't want to just have police captains or commissioners shooting people in custody.
Maybe Batman at the end of this story would have voted for you, Bob. But at the beginning, he's voting for Tom.
Right. No, but that's what I want, and for the way the rules work with those.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get you. Yeah, and speaking of which, at the beginning of the story, Commissioner Gordon here is like when Batman comes out of retirement, he's got like 3 or 4 weeks left before Gordon is going to get lose his job, mandatory retirement, and the person that takes his job is from out of town, doesn't really know anything about Batman. It's a good cop, but clearly it's someone who just wants to follow the letter of the law, which is why in the second and third installments of this 4-part series, he's 55, but he's fighting cops again, just the way he was when he first started out, because Jim Gordon isn't there to protect him. This new commissioner has unleashed the hounds on him, and it's interesting. It's good writing, I think. So, any other comments about you said let's analyze erudite literature, and I said you mean comic books. So what? How do you think we did? What do you think?
I mean, I'm happy with this, and just in the interest, like I think we hit the right time element, so we can wind things down. But I want to stress, Superman also gets his due in this. Like, and they did it because that's the thing. I like when they showing that Batman, like the sense in which he's more clever and whatever, and there's some sense and the other thing too that they do in the I think it's called the Justice League, the more recent cartoons. There's another great one where they're on the space station that Bruce built with Wayne Foundation money or something, and he gets hurt somehow, I forget how, and so he's like in the sick bay recovering, and Martian Manhunter is there kind of consoling him. And he's like, now, you got to understand, like, of all the people on the Justice League, you're the only one that doesn't truly have superpowers. And so you shouldn't feel, ashamed or something. Like, we understand you were just born on Earth, and how can you? And then he looks and Batman's long gone. Like, he just got up and he went off to, do the next thing or whatever. So anyway, there's that element. So there is a sense in which I think that's partly why the writers always stress that it's like it's in a sense a better role model for kids that, hey, if you really work out hard and, I guess to have billionaire parents, then you too can. But anyway, but I do like how they are realistic in the sense of like, well, no, I mean, what can Batman do against Superman? That there is this sense. And so that I think Miller captures that in this as well, that he, when Superman, like when it's in Superman's head and he's thinking about why he's upset with Bruce and like, look at all this, and this, look at what you're doing. Like, don't you see the position you're putting me in here? And he's like throwing tanks around and stuff while he's, having verbal battles in his head with Bruce, who's not there.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
So it's kind of cool, like to show, I mean, come on, it's Superman,
Yeah, much like, I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Like, the best literature has really, really well developed 3-dimensional characters who have a point of view, and it's not a straw man. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a reason they think what they think, and they're arguing the way they're arguing. And you get that in a lot of quarters in this little story. I'm not saying it's Dostoevsky exactly, but it's really interesting. I can make the arguments for Jim Gordon, the new police commissioner, for Batman, for Superman, even for the villains. I mean, I sort of get it. They're clearly pathological, but heck, Batman is pathological.
Yeah. I mean even the Reagan character.
The Reagan character for sure, but like when Bruce is talking to Clark, he says, yeah, of course we're criminals. We've always been criminals. Like, he gets it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think like this is what should be done. He's just saying, yeah, I'm going to do this anyway, and
I think you might have misinterpreted me a second ago. I meant even the Reagan character. I get what he's like. You can't go shut him up. What do we can't have this. This is awkward. Go talk to him and tell him this, put his head down. Cut this out. We can't have this.
Yeah, the same reasons that would have caused the government 10 years ago to shut all this down. None of that's changed. And you can sort of see how having the wild bucking bronco out there making a mess, it does sort of ruin Gotham. a little bit. You might argue Jordan Peterson-esquely that you've got to, your world has to fall apart before you can rebuild it when you've gone in the wrong direction or something. So you could expect some setbacks, but everybody, even the goofballs who just say, you shouldn't ever have anybody stand up for themselves ever. Even they have a perspective that makes sense in a story like this.
So, yes, in summary, I'm glad that you suggested I get that I did get it. And even just talking with you now, I am seeing things and I realize I got to let that sit for a bit and then I have to go back and reread that because I missed some stuff.
Yeah, I'm revealing my inner nerd, but I think I've read this thing 15 or 20 times just because I'll find myself thinking of a scene and I'll go, yeah, that was cool. And I'll go reread it. It's just one of my favorite stories.
Although by you saying revealing, you make it sound as if anybody in the audience didn't already know that you were a nerd. But anyway.
Did the mask slip before now? I don't understand. All right, Bob. Well, if that's it, is this it?
I think that's a good conclusion. Because again, we don't want to give too many spoilers. We want to give just enough.
I gave away a bunch of spoilers, but you'll still love it. Again, the true genius of this is in the telling. It's in each pane. It's in each line. Well, thank you, Bob. This was fun. I can't wait to discover what you're going to assign me for our next installment. I assume it's going to be like Archie and Veronica or something.
Possibly. And folks, just in case you just felt your heart lurch, Adam doesn't mean all we are ever going to do on these crossovers is the book club or the movie club or whatever. He just means that's now going to be a running mini-series, I suppose.
Something like that. So thank you, Bob. This was great. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go to theswanbrothers.com/cross if you have any need to make money, fundraise, promote your business, promote an event. And we will catch you next time on one of these crossover episodes. Say goodbye, Bob.
Take care, everybody. Don't override your car's computer unless you really, really need to win that race.
Coax it.
You've just experienced another episode of The Bob Murphy Show, the podcast promoting free markets, free minds, and grateful souls. For more information and to subscribe to this podcast, visit bobmurphyshow.com.